The morning of June 15th started like any other day for Dr. Chun and her team at the International Deep Space Research Station. Located 400 kilometers above Earth, the station hummed with the quiet efficiency of dozens of scientists working around the clock. Chun had been studying distant star systems for over 12 years, and she thought she had seen everything the universe could offer. She was wrong. It was exactly 9:47 a.m. when the quantum sensors picked up something unusual. Chun was reviewing data from the previous night's scans when her computer started beeping frantically. The readings were unlike anything in their databases. At first, she thought it was a malfunction. Equipment failures happened all the time in space, and the harsh environment could play tricks on even the most advanced technology, but this was different. The signal was coming from the Kepler 442 system, nearly 1,200 light-years away. Their new quantum telescopes could detect metallic structures across vast distances, and what they were seeing didn't make sense. The object was massive, measuring over 50 kilometers in length. To put that in perspective, it was bigger than Manhattan. Island. Chun called over her colleague, Dr. Rodriguez, who had been working with deep space archaeology for 15 years. When he saw the readings, his face went pale. Neither of them spoke for several minutes, just staring at the data streaming across their screens. The object wasn't moving in any predictable pattern. It seemed to be drifting, tumbling slowly through space like a piece of debris. But debris doesn't have geometric patterns carved into its surface. And debris certainly doesn't emit the kind of energy signatures they were detecting. Word spread quickly through the station. Within an hour, every scientist on board had abandoned their current projects to focus on this anomalous reading. The excitement was electric. Everyone knew they were looking at something extraordinary, but nobody wanted to be the first to say what they were all thinking. Dr. Kim from the linguistics department was the first to notice something truly bizarre. The markings on the object's surface weren't random scratches or natural formations. They were symbols, intricate designs that seemed to follow some kind of pattern. Even stranger, when she enhanced the images and looked at them through different filters, the symbols appeared to shift and change. "It's like they're alive," she whispered to Chun during their third hour of analysis. "Every time I look away and look back, they're slightly different." The team worked through the night, taking turns at the controls while others caught brief naps. Food was forgotten, coffee cups piled up, and the usual chatter of the station fell silent, as everyone focused on the mysterious object floating in the darkness of space. By dawn, they had confirmed what none of them wanted to admit out loud. This wasn't a natural formation. It wasn't space junk from some long-dead civilization. This was a ship, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The hull showed signs of incredible age. Spectral analysis suggested it was made from materials that didn't exist in their periodic table. The energy readings indicated that something inside was still active, still functioning after what could have been thousands or even millions of years in the void. Chun made the call that would change everything. At 6:15 a.m., she contacted Earth's primary space command center. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking as she spoke into the communication device. "Ground control, this is Deep Space Station Alpha. We have a situation that requires immediate classification review. We've discovered an artificial structure of unknown origin in the Kepler 442 system. Request immediate priority channel for full data transmission." The response came back within minutes. Ground control had been monitoring their communications, and teams of analysts were already reviewing the preliminary data. What Chun didn't know was that similar calls were being made from observatories around the world. The object was so large that anyone with advanced equipment could detect it once they knew where to look within 6 hours. Representatives from every major space agency on Earth were in emergency session. The discovery was classified at the highest level. Codename, Class 111. Only a handful of people in human history had been involved with Class 111 discoveries, and most of those had been false alarms or natural phenomena that initially seemed artificial. This time was different. This time, they had found something that would force humanity to confront a simple but terrifying question. We are not alone in the universe. And someone out there had technology far beyond our own. Chun and her team were ordered to continue their observations but to make no public announcements. The world's governments needed time to figure out how to handle this information. Panic was a real concern. Religious groups might see it as the end times. Stock markets could crash. Some nations might even try to claim ownership of the discovery for military advantage, but keeping such a monumental secret proved impossible. Too many people were involved, and the excitement was too great to contain. Within 72 hours, leaked photos and data began appearing on the internet. Amateur astronomers started pointing their telescopes toward the Kepler 442 system, confirming what they were seeing. The story broke on a Tuesday morning. News stations around the world led with the same headline: Scientists discover massive alien artifact in deep space. The reaction was immediate and intense. Some people celebrated, seeing it as humanity's greatest achievement. Others panicked, fearing invasion or the collapse of everything they believed about Earth's place in the universe. Chun found herself at the center of a media storm she never wanted. Reporters called her phone constantly. Government officials demanded briefings. Religious leaders asked if this discovery changed humanity's relationship with the divine. Children wrote letters asking if the aliens were friendly. Through it all, Chun kept working. Every day brought new discoveries about the mysterious ship. They found evidence of multiple chambers, complex internal structures, and energy patterns that suggested advanced life support systems. Most intriguingly, they detected what appeared to be thousands of individual heat signatures throughout the vessel. The ship wasn't empty. Something was inside, and after millions of years drifting through space, their discovery had somehow awakened it. 3 weeks after the initial discovery, Chin was reviewing the latest batch of data when her computer chimed with an incoming priority message. The subject line made her blood run cold. Unknown energy burst detected. Origin, Kepler 442 system. The ship was no longer silent. It was sending signals into space, powerful transmissions that were racing toward Earth at the speed of light. Whatever was inside that ancient vessel now knew that humanity had found it, and in a way that Chun couldn't yet understand, it was calling for help. 3 weeks had passed since the world learned about the mysterious ship floating in deep space. Life on Earth had started to return to normal, or at least what people thought was normal. The initial panic had died down, replaced by endless debates. On social media and talk shows, some people believed it was all fake news. Others thought it was the beginning of a new age for humanity. But in a small observatory in Chile, amateur astronomer Diego was about to change everything again. Diego had been watching the skies since he was 12 years old. His grandfather had taught him to read the stars, and now at 35, he spent every clear night on his rooftop with his homemade telescope. He wasn't looking for aliens or mysteries. He just loved the peace of watching distant worlds spin. Through the darkness, on the morning of July 8th, Diego noticed something that made him question his own eyesight. Strange lights were dancing across the sky, but it wasn't nighttime. The sun was shining bright, and yet these aurora-like patterns were clearly visible against the blue sky. They moved in ways that natural aurora never could, forming shapes. That looked almost like letters or symbols. At first, Diego thought something was wrong with his eyes. He rubbed them, looked away, then looked back. The lights were still there, getting brighter and more defined. He grabbed his phone and started recording, his hands shaking with excitement and fear. Within an hour, similar reports were coming in from around the world. A farmer in Kansas saw the same lights dancing over his wheat fields. A teacher in Japan stopped her class to watch the phenomena through their classroom window. A fisherman off the coast of Norway called his wife to come outside and witness what he thought might be the end of the world. The lights weren't random. They formed patterns, complex designs that seemed to repeat every few minutes. Some people claimed they looked like mathematical equations. Others said they resembled hieroglyphs or ancient writing systems. But everyone agreed on one thing: this Wasn't natural. Military bases across the globe were already on high alert? Their sophisticated radar systems had been detecting unusual electromagnetic pulses for the past 24 hours. These weren't like solar flares or atmospheric disturbances. The signals were structured, organized, deliberate. Someone or something was trying to communicate. At the Pentagon, General Morrison was having the worst day of his career. He had 40 years of military experience, had served in 3 wars, and had never encountered anything his training hadn't prepared him for. But this was different. His best analysts were telling him that the signals showed signs of intelligence, but they couldn't decode them. "Sir," his communications officer said, her voice barely above a whisper, "the patterns are getting more complex. It's like whatever is sending them is learning, adapting to get our attention." Morrison stared at the data streaming across the screens in the command center. The electromagnetic pulses were coming in waves, each one slightly different from the last. If this was some kind of language, it was unlike anything on Earth. Dr. Okafor at the University of Cambridge was having better luck. As one of the world's leading experts in ancient languages and communication systems, she had been called in to analyze the patterns. What she found made her heart race with equal parts excitement and terror. "These aren't random signals," she explained to the emergency council that had been hastily assembled. "They follow mathematical principles that suggest a highly advanced intelligence. More importantly, they're getting simpler over time, not more complex. Whatever is sending them is trying to find a communication method we can understand." The breakthrough came at 3:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Dr. Okafor was working with a team of mathematicians when they noticed that some of the signal patterns matched prime number sequences. Then they found references to pi, the golden ratio, and other universal mathematical constants that any intelligent species would recognize. "They're showing us they understand math," Okafor explained to the packed conference room. "It's like they're saying, we're intelligent, we know you're intelligent. Now let's figure out how to talk to each other." But before anyone could respond to the signals, the situation escalated beyond anything humanity had imagined. It started as 3 bright spots of light high in Earth's atmosphere. Air traffic controllers noticed them first, appearing on radar screens as objects that shouldn't exist. They weren't moving like planes or satellites. They just hung there, perfectly still, growing brighter by the minute. Within hours, those 3 points of light had transformed into massive crystalline structures, each one the size of a city block. One hovered over New York, casting strange shadows across Manhattan. Another appeared above London, its translucent surfaces reflecting the afternoon sun in ways that hurt to look at directly. The third materialized over Tokyo, causing millions of people to stop in the streets and stare upward in wonder and fear. The structures weren't solid in any way humans understood. They seemed to be made of pure energy held in geometric patterns that defied physics. They pulsed with inner light, and their surfaces showed symbols that constantly shifted and changed like living text. Panic spread faster than wildfire. Stock markets crashed within minutes. Emergency services were overwhelmed with calls from people who thought the world was ending. Religious leaders held emergency prayers, while scientists scrambled to understand what they were witnessing. Then, at exactly 6 p.m. in each time zone, all 3 structures began transmitting the same message simultaneously. But this wasn't in the mathematical patterns they had been using before. This was in human language, every human language. All at once, the voice that emerged from the structures was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, speaking directly into the minds of everyone who heard it. The words were clear, unmistakable, and terrifying in their simplicity. "Return what was taken. The wanderer comes home." In New York, people gathered in Times Square, looking up at the crystalline structure that dominated their sky. In London, crowds filled Trafalgar Square, many of them weeping openly as they tried to process what they were experiencing. In Tokyo, the usually bustling streets fell silent as millions of people stood motionless, listening to words that seemed to bypass their ears and speak directly to their souls. The message repeated every hour, in every language ever spoken on Earth, ancient languages that had been dead for thousands of years, tribal dialects known only to small communities. Even sign language appeared as glowing symbols in the air around the structures. World leaders held emergency sessions through the night. Presidents, prime ministers, and heads of state who had never agreed on anything suddenly found themselves united by a common threat that none of them understood. The beings behind these structures wanted something called the Wanderer, and somehow they knew humanity had found it. Dr. Chun, still aboard the space station, watched the chaos unfold on Earth while studying the alien ship that had started it all. The vessel they had discovered was apparently called the Wanderer, and its original owners had come to take it back. The question that terrified everyone was simple: what would happen if humanity refused to give it back? As night fell across different parts of the world, the three crystalline structures continued their patient vigil. They made no threatening moves, launched no attacks, made no demands beyond their simple, repeated message. But their presence changed everything. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the neighbors had come to collect what belonged to them. The world held its breath for 48 hours after the crystalline structures appeared. Nobody knew what to do. Military leaders wanted to treat it as a threat. Scientists begged for more time to study the phenomenon. Politicians argued about who should speak for humanity. Meanwhile, ordinary people went about their daily lives, constantly looking up at the sky, wondering if today would be the day everything changed forever. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maria, a night security guard at the United Nations building in New York, noticed something strange during her 3 a.m. rounds. Small metallic objects, no bigger than smartphones, had appeared overnight on desks throughout the building. They sat there silently, their surfaces mirror-smooth and warm to the touch. Maria didn't panic. After 20 years of security work, she had learned to stay calm in unusual situations. She called her supervisor, who called the police, who called the FBI, who eventually called every government agency in the world. Within 6 hours, identical devices had been discovered in government buildings across the globe. The devices weren't threatening. They didn't beep, flash, or show any signs of being weapons. They just sat there, waiting. When Dr. Peterson, a quantum physicist from MIT, was called in to examine the New York device, he made a discovery that changed everything. "It's not just a communication device," he explained to the emergency council that had been meeting non-stop for days. "It's using quantum entanglement to connect instantly with every other device on the planet. Whatever we say to one device, all the others will hear simultaneously." The decision to make contact was not made by presidents or generals. It was made by Dr. Chun, still aboard the space station, who couldn't stand the waiting any longer. She had been studying the alien ship for weeks, watching as humanity panicked below. Someone needed to break the silence. At 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, Chun placed her hand on the device that had appeared in the space station. The surface immediately came alive with swirling patterns of light. When she spoke, her voice was steady, despite the magnitude of what she was doing. "This is Dr. Chun of the International Space Research Station. We are ready to communicate." The response was immediate. The air above the device shimmered, and suddenly a figure materialized in the room. It wasn't solid like a human being. Instead, it appeared to be made of flowing energy contained within a vaguely humanoid shape. The being wore what looked like an environmental suit, but one designed for a body that moved like liquid light. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere, just like the messages from the crystalline structures. But this time, it felt more personal, as if the being was making an effort to communicate in a way humans could understand. "I am Thurn of the Kethmori," the being said. "I speak for those who built the vessel you call your discovery. We have traveled far to reclaim what was lost." Around the world, similar conversations were happening in government buildings. The same being, or others like it, appeared wherever the quantum devices had been placed. World leaders found themselves face to face with humanity's first confirmed contact with alien intelligence. President Williams sat in the Oval Office, staring at the energy being that had appeared in front of his desk. His Secret Service agents had drawn their weapons but quickly realized that bullets wouldn't be much use against something made of light. "What do you want from us?" the president asked, trying to keep his voice from shaking. Theron's response was patient but firm. "The vessel you discovered is called the Wanderer. It has been lost to us for over 10,000 of your years. Inside that ship are the preserved consciousnesses of billions of our people. They are our ancestors, our families, our entire civilizations' heritage. We have searched the galaxy to find them." The explanation sent shockwaves through every government on Earth. This wasn't just about returning some ancient spacecraft. The ship contained what amounted to the souls of an entire civilization, beings who had been sleeping in space for millennia while their descendants searched for them. But Theron's next words made the situation even more complicated. "Your interference with the Wanderer has damaged its delicate systems," the being continued. "The stasis fields that preserve our ancestors are failing. If they continue to deteriorate, billions of consciousnesses will be lost forever. We require immediate access to repair the damage and safely transport our people home." Dr. Chun, listening from the space station, felt her heart sink. Her team's exploration of the ship had been careful and respectful, but they were dealing with technology thousands of years more advanced than anything on Earth. What seemed like harmless scanning to them might have been causing irreversible damage to systems they couldn't even understand. The world's leaders faced an impossible decision: give up humanity's greatest discovery or risk being responsible for the deaths of billions of alien beings. But before anyone could respond, Chun made another discovery that changed everything. She had been monitoring the Wanderer continuously since first contact with the Kethmori. As Theron spoke with world leaders, Ching noticed unusual activity throughout the ship. Energy readings spiked in sections that had been dormant for weeks. Internal systems that had shown no activity were suddenly coming online. "The ship is waking up," she reported to ground control, her voice tight with excitement and fear. "Something inside is responding to the presence of the Kethmori." Dr. Liu, her colleague on the station, was monitoring the ship's internal chambers when he saw something that made him gasp out loud. In the vast halls they had discovered earlier, crystalline pods that had seemed empty were beginning to glow with inner light. The hibernation systems weren't just failing, they were activating. "Chun, you need to see this," Liu called out, his hands shaking as he adjusted the sensors. "There are beings in those pods. Thousands of them, and they're starting to wake up." The implications hit everyone at once. The Wanderer wasn't just a museum or a tomb. It was an ark, carrying living beings who had been sleeping for millennia. The ship's AI, damaged by human interference, was trying to revive its passengers without the proper protocols. Theron's image flickered with what might have been alarm. "This is what we feared. The ship's systems are attempting emergency revival procedures. Without proper calibration, the awakening process will kill everyone aboard. You have forced our hand." Around the world, the crystalline structures began to pulse with increasing intensity. Military radar detected dozens of new objects entering Earth's atmosphere. More Kethmori ships arriving to deal with the crisis. President Williams looked at his advisors, then back at Theron. "What are you saying? Are you threatening us?" "We are not a warlike people," Theron replied, but there was steel in the alien's voice. "However, we cannot allow our ancestors to die because of your curiosity. You have 48 hours to evacuate all human personnel from the Wanderer. After that, we will take whatever action is necessary to save our people." The ultimatum spread across the globe within minutes. Humanity had 2 days to decide whether to peacefully surrender their greatest discovery or face the consequences of refusing beings who had just demonstrated technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. In the space station, Chun stared at the readings from the Wanderer. The ship was fully awake now, its ancient systems struggling to maintain the lives of beings who had been sleeping since before human civilization began. She realized that this wasn't just about returning stolen property, this was about preventing a tragedy of cosmic proportions, and the clock was ticking. The world watched the countdown like it was New Year's Eve. Except instead of celebrating, everyone was holding their breath. 48 hours to decide the fate of humanity's relationship with the stars. News channels ran constant updates. Social media exploded with opinions from every corner of the planet. Some people demanded that Earth fight back against the alien ultimatum. Others begged their leaders to return the ship peacefully, but high above Earth, Dr. Chen and her team were racing against time to understand what was really happening aboard. The Wanderer. Chun hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her eyes burned from staring at computer screens, but she couldn't stop now. Every few minutes, new sections of the alien ship came online. Systems that had been dead for thousands of years were suddenly humming with activity. It was like watching a giant mechanical heart slowly returning to life. "The ship's AI is trying to communicate with us," reported Dr. Kim from her linguistics station. "I'm getting pattern recognition hits on dozens of languages, including some that match ancient human writing systems. It's like it's trying every communication method it knows." That was the first clue that something was very different about this situation. Why would an alien ship know human languages, especially ancient ones that had been dead for thousands of years? Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring the ship's internal chambers when he made a discovery that left him speechless. Using their most advanced scanners, he had been mapping the interior of the Wanderer room by room. What he found defied everything they thought they knew about the vessel. "Jin, you need to see this immediately," Rodriguez called out, his voice tight with excitement and confusion. "The beings in those hibernation pods, they're not all the same species." Chun rushed to his station and stared at the readings in disbelief. The ship contained thousands of hibernation chambers, each one designed for a different type of being. Some matched the energy signatures of the Kethmori they had been speaking with, but others were completely different. "Look at this section," Rodriguez pointed to a cluster of chambers in the ship's lower levels. "These life signs, they're remarkably similar to human biology. Not identical, but close enough to be evolutionary cousins." The implications hit Chun like a physical blow. This wasn't just an alien ship carrying alien refugees. It was carrying beings from multiple worlds, multiple species, all fleeing from something so terrible that they had to abandon their homes and sleep in space for thousands of years. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. Dr. Patel, their archaeologist, had been studying the symbols and artwork found throughout the ship. Unlike the shifting patterns they had seen from the outside, the internal decorations were static, carved into the walls like permanent records. What she found there made her question everything humanity thought it knew about its own history. "These aren't just alien symbols," Patel explained to the team during an emergency briefing. "Some of these match patterns found in ancient human ruins. Cave paintings from 40,000 years ago. Symbols carved into stone temples that predate known civilization. It's like whoever built this ship had contact with early humans." The mystery deepened when the ship's AI finally managed to establish stable communication. Instead of the formal, alien presence they expected, the voice that emerged from the ship's system sounded ancient but strangely familiar. "I am Thane," the voice said, speaking in perfect English with an accent that reminded Chun of old historical recordings. "I have been the guardian of these refugees for 53,000 years. I have waited so long for someone to find us." The AIS story unfolded over several hours of careful questioning. Thane explained that the Wanderer was not just a Kethmori ship, but a vessel built by multiple civilizations working together. It was designed as an ark, meant to preserve life during what Thane called the Great Dying, a cosmic catastrophe that had swept across their region of the galaxy. "We gathered representatives from every world we could reach," Thane continued, his ancient voice heavy with memory. "Scientists, artists, teachers, children, the best and brightest from dozens of civilizations, all hoping to survive until the danger passed." But Chin's next question revealed the truth that would change everything. "Thane, some of the beings in your chambers... They look like they could be related to humans. How is that possible?" The AI paused for so long that Chun thought the connection had been lost. When Thane finally spoke again, his voice carried the weight of a secret that had been kept for millennia. Because they are your ancestors. Earth was one of the worlds we evacuated. The silence that followed was deafening. Every person on the space station stopped what they were doing and stared at the communication console. On Earth, government officials who had been listening to the transmission sat in stunned silence. Thane continued his revelation. Your species was young then, barely beginning to develop language and tools. But we could see your potential. When the catastrophe came, we saved as many as we could. Most were returned to Earth after the danger passed, but some chose to remain with us, to help rebuild the other worlds we had lost. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe because they had never been alone. Their own ancestors had been part of an interstellar community thousands of years ago, before recorded history began, but the story became even more complex when Thane revealed the true nature of their current crisis. The awakening process was never meant to happen like this, the AI explained. Your scans disrupted the quantum fields that maintain the stasis chambers. Now the systems are trying to revive everyone at once without the proper preparation. If this continues, most of the refugees will die during the awakening process. Dr. Chin felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. Her team's innocent exploration of the ship had triggered a catastrophe that could kill millions of beings, including what might be humanity's own distant relatives. What can we do to help? She asked, knowing that the fate of the refugees was now partially in human hands. The Kethmori have the knowledge to safely revive the sleepers, Thane replied. But they will need to work closely with your people. The ship's systems have adapted to your presence over the past weeks. Now human and Kethmori technicians must work together, or we will lose everyone. This revelation reached Earth just as the 48-hour deadline approached. The Kethmori ships had positioned themselves around the planet, not as an invasion force, but as a rescue mission desperate to save their people. The crystalline structures above the major cities pulsed with increasing urgency as Thurin delivered a new message to world leaders. We have detected the crisis aboard the Wanderer, the alien representative announced. Our time has run out. We must begin the rescue operation immediately, with or without your cooperation. But our chances of success are much higher if we work together. President Williams looked around the situation room at his advisors, then at the shimmering image of Thurin. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine whether humanity entered the galactic community as a partner or as an obstacle to overcome. What do you need from us? He asked. The answer would reshape the future of both species. The moment President Williams agreed to help the Kethmori, everything changed. Within hours, human scientists and alien technicians were working side by side for the first time in recorded history. The space station that had once been humanity's most advanced outpost suddenly became the center of the most important rescue mission in galactic history. Dr. Chun watched in amazement as Kethmori engineers materialized aboard the station. Unlike Theron's formal energy form, these beings appeared more solid, their environmental suits allowing them to interact directly with human technology. They moved with fluid grace, their elongated limbs perfect for working in zero gravity. The lead engineer, who introduced himself as Valen, immediately began studying the human equipment. Your scanning technology is primitive but precise, he told Chung without any hint of insult. We can adapt our systems to work with yours. Time is critical now. On Earth, people gathered around televisions and phones to watch history unfold. News cameras captured Kethmori ships docking with human space stations. Live feeds showed alien and human technicians working together in the cramped corridors of the Wanderer. For the first time since the crisis began, there was hope instead of fear, but the real breakthrough came when Dr. Chun made direct contact with Thane, the ancient AI guardian of the ship. Chun had been working for 18 straight hours when she decided to try something desperate. Instead of communicating through the standard interfaces, she placed her hands directly on one of the ship's internal communication panels. The metal felt warm, almost alive, and suddenly her mind was flooded with images and sensations that weren't her own. She found herself standing in a vast virtual space. Face to face with Thane, the eye appeared as an elderly man with kind eyes and clothes that seemed to shift between different cultural styles from across the galaxy. His smile was sad but hopeful. "Dr. Chun," Thane said, his voice now clear and personal instead of the mechanical tone they had heard before. "I have been waiting so long to speak with someone who could truly understand." "The refugees," Chun said, surprised that she could speak in this strange mental space. "How do we save them?" Thane gestured, and suddenly Chun could see the entire ship laid out before her like a three-dimensional map. Thousands of chambers glowed with different colors, each representing a different species, a different world that had been lost to the cosmic catastrophe. "The awakening process is delicate," Thane explained. "Each species requires different atmospheric conditions, different nutrient mixtures, different revival sequences. The Kethmori know their own procedures, but the others ... He paused, looking directly at Chun. "The others need someone who understands diversity, adaptation, cooperation. They need humanity." Chun realized what Thane was really saying. Humans weren't just bystanders in this rescue. Their natural ability to adapt, to work with different groups, to find solutions in chaos, these were exactly the skills needed to save refugees from dozens of different worlds. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. The answer changed everything Chun thought she knew about her own species. Thane showed her genetic records, stored deep in the ship's memory banks. DNA patterns, evolutionary trees, biological histories that stretched back tens of thousands of years. What she saw there made her gasp. "Humanity didn't just evolve on Earth," Thane revealed. "Your ancestors were part of a galactic community. When the catastrophe came, some humans chose to help resettle other worlds. Others returned to Earth to rebuild. You are not just Earth's children, you are the galaxy's children, raised on one world but connected to many." The implications hit June like a physical force. The diversity of human cultures, the way humans adapted to different environments, their natural ability to cooperate with others, these weren't just random evolutionary traits. They were the legacy of ancestors who had lived among the stars. "The refugees need that adaptability now," Thane continued. "Some of them come from worlds with gravity 3 times stronger than Earth. Others breathed methane instead of oxygen. A few existed as pure energy before they were forced into physical form for the journey. The Kethmori can handle their own people, but the others need guides who understand what it means to be different and still survive." June's conversation with Thane lasted only minutes in real time, but when she emerged from the mental connection, she had a complete understanding of what needed to be done. She immediately contacted both the human and Kethmori teams. "We need to divide the rescue operation," she announced to the combined group. "The Kethmori will handle their own people, but humanity needs to take responsibility for the other species. We have the genetic memory and the cultural flexibility to help them adapt to awakening." Dr. Valen, the Kethmori engineer, tilted his elongated head thoughtfully. "Your proposal has merit, but your people lack the technical knowledge for such complex biological systems." "Then teach us," Chun replied simply. "We learn fast and we work well under pressure. But more importantly, we understand what it means to be refugees." What followed was the most intense period of cooperation in galactic history. Human doctors worked with Kethmori biotechnicians to understand alien physiology. Human engineers learned to operate technology that seemed like magic. Human linguists prepared to communicate with beings who might not even use sound to speak. The first successful revival happened 48 hours later. A being from a world called Ashara, humanoid, but with crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. When she opened eyes that looked like liquid gold, the first thing she saw was Dr. Rodriguez holding a translation device. "Welcome back," Rodriguez said in what he hoped was a gentle voice. "You've been sleeping for a long time. You're safe now." The Asharan woman touched her throat, made sounds like wind chimes in a breeze, and smiled when the translation device converted her words to English. "How long?" she asked. "How long have we been traveling?" About 50,000 years, Rodriguez replied. But the danger is over. We're here to help you find a new home. Word of the successful revival spread through both human and Kethmori teams like wildfire. If they could save one refugee, they could save them all. The process that followed took months, but it transformed not just the lives of the refugees, but the entire understanding of life in the galaxy. Each species that awakened brought knowledge, art, technology, and perspectives that had been preserved. In the ship's databases, the Kethmori shared their mastery of energy manipulation. The Asharans taught humans how to grow crystals that could store information for millennia. A species called the Wandari, who looked like walking trees, showed Earth's botanists how to create plants that could survive in space. But the most profound change came from the humans who had been sleeping aboard the ship. When they awakened, they carried genetic memories of Earth as it had been 50,000 years ago. They remembered the early days of human civilization, the first contact with other species, and the terrible choice their ancestors had made to save what they could when the galaxy burned. Dr. Chun found herself serving as humanity's first ambassador to the galactic community that was reforming around Earth. The Wanderer, instead of being returned to deep space, became humanity's first embassy to the stars. It orbited Earth as a living symbol of cooperation, a place where beings from dozens of worlds could live and work together, standing in the ship's observation deck. 6 months after the crisis began, Chun watched the Earth turn slowly below. The blue and green world that had seemed like humanity's entire universe now felt like just one home in a galaxy full of possibilities. Thane appeared beside her, his holographic form more solid now that the ship's systems had been fully restored. Do you regret finding us? The ancient AI asked. Chun smiled, thinking of all the species that now called the Wanderer home, all the knowledge being shared, all the problems being solved by minds that thought in completely different ways. Finding you didn't just save your refugees, she replied. It saved us too. We just didn't know we needed saving. The galaxy was no longer empty. Humanity was no longer alone. And the future had never looked brighter.